Buenos dias. Yeah, that's the extent of my Spanish. My 13-year-old son would be either really proud or most likely very embarrassed as he speaks Spanish fluently. So we're going to be talking about Shopper First and how you can become a Shopper First retailer and brand. But before I do that, I'd like to echo Enrique's comments and thank you. Thanks to our customers, to our partners. I'd like to thank my colleagues. I flew in from Boston, Massachusetts, and landed yesterday and have had an unbelievable last 24 hours, including an exquisite meal last night, including some of the best ham I've ever had. I'm coming back to Spain just for that. So let's get down to it. I think we all know that we're living in a really interesting time. A lot of people like to proclaim that we're amidst the great retail apocalypse. I like to think it in a much more positive way, in that it's a retail renaissance, an opportunity for us to reinvent our business model, our operating model, our technology model, thinking about the customer, how we can put her in the midst of everything we do, and we accomplish this through a digital transformation. Now, digital, for me, for a lot of years, really equated to standing up a new website. But today, digital and digital transformation is about infusing that with artificial intelligence wherever and whenever the consumer is interacting with your brand. So to really unpack this, to really understand what's happening in our industry, we went out and we talked to consumers. We did that in 3 ways. We interviewed thousands of consumers worldwide. We did mystery shopping, and we bubbled up and aggregated the data that flows through our platform to understand not what the consumers think they're going to do, but they're telling us and they're declaring what they want from us. And there are 3 key trends that emerged. They want us to make it fresh. They want us to be where I am. And lastly, they want us to give it meaning. So I'm going to spend the next 25 minutes or so going through each of these trends to, again, really understand and uncover what shoppers are telling what we need to do. So let's start with make it fresh. And I guess the best place to start is around the product. We found that 69%, nearly 2/3 of consumers, are going to more likely shop if there's a new product. Of course, fast fashion was pioneered by Zara many years ago, and now it's fresh fashion. There's an expectation that consumers want new, inspiring, innovative products every time they come to your site, they come to your store. They want to be inspired, they want to be surprised, and they want to be delighted. So we need a steady drumbeat beyond the 2 or 3 times a year we're introducing new products, and we want some constant innovation and new merchandise within the 4 walls of your store. And limited edition. This used to be a no-no in retail. Go to a website and you didn't have inventory. Well, here's a good example of Adidas. And it's really limited edition, creating this urgency to buy it now or never have an opportunity to purchase that new and hot product. In fact, the younger generation, millennials and Gen Z, 61% are more likely to buy from brands that offer limited edition merchandise. Don't be afraid to sell out. Create that urgency and imperative to buy now and create that treasure hunt approach. And collaborations, as it relates to making it fresh, are really all the rage, where really for a long time, we as brands wanted to own and control the customer and the customer experience, and now we're opening up and understanding what complementary brands are catering to our same consumer, and we can cater to them collectively. So MAC, as an example, partnered with Puma and created actually lipstick and other beauty products that match sneakers. You have New Balance and an upstart sock manufacturer, Stance, coming together and creating a whole look around how you can make your feet look a little more attractive. And then Target in the States, along with Vineyard Vines. Vineyard Vines going after a demographic that they never thought they would do in terms of more of the masses, and they created Collective as well. Another one that's not featured in here, which I think is absolutely fascinating, is ModCloth, a specialty retailer that was purchased by Walmart, is actually partnering with Nordstrom. If you think about it, Nordstrom, Walmart coming together as a collection to cater to consumers. You wouldn't have even heard of that several years ago, and now it's happening more and more. And when we think about making it fresh, we hear personalization, right? And personalization is around mass customization down to the individual person. Just a couple examples here. Lacoste with My Croc. Again, organizations that wanted to own and control their brand, right, are opening that up and creating co-creation with consumers, allowing that crocodile in different colors, in different shades, on whatever color shirt you want. And Converse, I encourage you, next time you're in the States, if you're in New York or Boston, to visit their store. They've created this unbelievable design studios that allow you to design everything down to the fabric and thread and be able to order it and have it actually within their factory, in their store, created on the spot. And Kiehl's in health and beauty. I was recently keynoting at a health and beauty conference in New York and heard Kiehl's speak, and they have this apothecary collection. The serum is down to the individual based on the profile, based on the preference of the individual consumer. And Shinola. I have one of their watches on right now out of Detroit, Michigan in the States, an authentic brand, been around for decades. They allow for custom embroidery for their watches and other fine leather products, really making the consumer feel like they're part of the creation process and feel like the product is actually their own. So as we move forward to the second mandate, if you will, consumers are saying we need to be where they are. What does that mean? What does be where I am actually mean? Well, from the beginning of time, retail was about pulling consumers to our property, right? Our entire supply chain was about getting pricing and product and inventory, all the creative and the labor within the four walls of the store. Well, now we know that's expanded to be also digitally as well. But then pulling the consumer to our owned and operated property. Very comfortable, very controlled. But that has totally transformed. It's moved increasingly from pulling consumers to our property to pushing our brand to wherever the consumers are. And that's increasingly off property, whether that's messaging platforms, social, marketplaces, whatever IoT device you can think of today and in the future. By the way, this isn't about cluttering your Facebook feed with targeted ads. This is about embedding your brand in the daily lives of your consumer. And by the way, this isn't just for B2C, but it's also for B2B, right? We as consumers have a high expectation on how to do business with retailers and brands. We also have a high expectation to do with business with other businesses we have. Mark Benioff, our founder, started with a very simple mantra, which is enterprise software should be as easy as buying a book online. And we need to make our B2B experiences that intuitive, that inspiring. And where else do you need to be than your mobile device? Your mobile device is, after all, the remote control of our daily lives. And what we found over our holiday season, based on our shopping index, is that 48% of orders, nearly half of orders, were actually done on a mobile device. We finally figured out how to break down the friction between inspiration and purchase on the mobile device, and we saw that this holiday season. And by the way, mobile isn't just off your property, but we also have to think about it within the four walls of the store. Showrooming used to be, if you will, a four-letter word in retail, right? A consumer's going to come in your store, be inspired, get service, and then go on a mobile device and buy that product for cheaper somewhere else. Now, leading retailers, listening to the mandate of being where they are, the consumers, are embracing mobile in two dimensions. One is with the consumer. Let them use their mobile device. They're doing it already. They're telling us they are, to find inspiration, talk to their friends, family, and colleague about a product they may or may not like. Yes, they might be checking out pricing and promotion from other retailers, but embrace that. The other dimension is put the power in the hands of the store associate. I grew up in the stores, so I have a real soft spot for the associate and the fact that they're our biggest brand ambassador. Arm them with the same information, the same intelligence that consumers have. And let's think about the mobile friction that existed for so long. That's why the conversion rate was really low. Johnson & Murphy, when they introduced their mobile site and introduced Apple Pay in specifically, they saw that Apple buyers spent 90 seconds less on their site, and 15% of all mobile purchases were done by Apple. Why? It's easy. Again, we made it really difficult for consumers to find the product and then ultimately buy. If we can break down that friction, reduce the time from inspiration to purchase, we're going to see increased conversion and increased revenue. And when we think about being where consumers are, we can't ignore voice. I think personally that voice is the next user interface. It's so intuitive. It's so natural. And hey, if you see my 10-year-old son read, he's talking to Alexa every day. By the way, he called her Siri the other day. That was really, really awkward. I think they're okay, though. I think they're okay. He's always asking to play music, what the weather's like, putting stuff in fictitious shopping carts. In the future, though, that will be right there with the buy button. So we need to think about voice and how that changes the shopping and browsing experience. We used to think about above the fold in the marketing world in terms of you want your message, you want your content above the fold of the newspaper. There is no fold in voice. So we have to think about how to naturally incorporate voice in the shopping and service and marketing experience. All right, let's talk about give it meaning, one of my favorite. What do we mean by give it meaning? Well, what we are finding is there's no better way to give it meaning than actually provide personalization. You can't go too far without hearing the initials AI. Personally here at a Salesforce conference, AI, Einstein. But what does that actually mean? I encourage retailers when I talk to them all the time, it's not about AI as the technology, but it's about driving outcomes. And for me, it's really one of three things as it relates to artificial intelligence. How do I make it more convenient? How do I make it more automated? And yes, how do I make it more personalized? What we found over the holiday season, based on our shopping index, is that when a consumer clicked on a product recommendation driven by artificial intelligence, they spent 14% more on average per transaction. So I'm constantly asked by reporters over the holiday season is, are we going to see the next round of discounts, and how are retailers making margin? Well, artificial intelligence driving personalization is the antidote, is the answer to discounting. It's providing the right product at the right price within the context of the consumer. And again, on that mobile device, not forcing the consumer to scroll 5 times down to get that, if you like this, you might like that message. You've got to incorporate personalization right in the context. So let me talk about a couple examples of how I've seen leading retailers and brands leverage artificial intelligence to drive personalization. And it's 3 ways: on-site, subscriptions, and in-aisle. Let me start with on-site. Elf Cosmetics is a great example on how they use information about the consumer to drive personalized sorting and product recommendations. They're not waiting for the consumer to telling them what they want, but they're embedding that. Every click, every tap, every swipe, Elf Cosmetics is getting smarter about the consumer and driving a personalized experience, which is really equating to higher conversion. Subscriptions you hear about, again, with the different box clubs and different sites that are offering curated content and curated products. Stance, where I referenced before, sock manufacturer, what they're doing is they stood up subscriptions and built it right on the platform. And what they're finding is more than 20% of their overall digital now is coming through subscriptions. Why is this important? Because they're finding ways to engage and re-engage that consumer. But what I find most interesting is they're using the information about the consumer, what they buy, what they don't buy, what they buy together, how frequently they purchase, and using that shopping information along with profile and preferences that they're learning from subscription and incorporating that onto the website. So now the website experience is smarter. And lastly, in aisle. This is an example of Suit Supply. I'm a big fan of Suit Supply. I think we're going to be visiting them later today. And what I like about what they are doing is we're all about the checkout, aren't we, in the store? It's about making sure the queue doesn't get too long, speed and efficiency of the checkout, right? And what Suit Supply has done is they moved from a checkout process to a check-in process. So they're empowering their associates to engage that consumer as they're walking in the four walls of the store, when they're looking for research, when they're looking for discovery, when they're looking for inspiration. And they're arming that store associate with a mobile device that has information about how they were marketed to, what service inquiries they had, and also what products available both in the store and anywhere within their network. I was shopping recently at Suit Supply in San Francisco. I wanted to get a new shirt for a meeting I had in the Salesforce Tower, and I was amazed. I don't know what size I am. I should, maybe, probably, but I didn't. But they had that simple information about the last 5 shirts I bought from them so they could more customize the experience for me. By the way, I also wanted a product that wasn't in stock, so they were able to bring together the transaction of the product present, the product not present in one seamless transaction. So again, shifting from checkout to check-in is a big change for all of us in retail. And personalization isn't just important for the B2C world, it's also important for the B2B world. Again, we have that same expectation. And speaking with the CIO of Ralph Lauren, who introduced B2C at scale globally about a year ago, and B2B about 3 months ago, what they are finding is with their mom and pop shop owners, which have an internet connection, but don't have a lot more intelligence around how to order from some sophisticated merchandising or order system. They've really automated and streamlined the B2B experience and provide personalization. They're allowed to customize the product, especially for specific golf clubs, as an example. They're able to see virtual merchandising, what outfits might go together, and allowing them to do that and order quantities based on that. And then order automation, understanding what's been purchased in the past and really streamlining what was candidly a very clunky and in many cases manual, paper-based ordering process. Shoppers, as it relates to Give It Meaning, also want authenticity. They want to make sure a brand stands for something beyond the product that they sell. And we found, particularly with the younger generation, younger shoppers are more likely to buy from retailers that have a purpose, stand for something, and offer a charitable donation with the purchase. And one example that I'll give is Everlane. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Everlane. You can visit their store in Soho as well. And what they've decided to do is create supply chain transparency. It's been forever a black box in terms of how the product was manufactured, where the product was manufactured, who manufactured it, and what actual costs went in. They've actually provided a line item detail around every product that was sourced and the actual cost. So yeah, you're seeing that you're paying about a 30% markup, but it's better than the 50, 60% markup that you don't know you're paying with their competitor. You can, in their store, scan the product, go right to their website, and get all the information about the ethical sourcing that goes into how the product is manufactured. So if I think of this in totality around what the consumers, what the shoppers are telling us, at the end of the day, they're looking for experience. They're looking for meaning. They're looking for not just transactions, but actual relationships. And here's a quote that I really like from Bethany Kemp at Design Within Reach. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but the last couple of words really, really resonate with me, which is we need to customize, we need to personalize every communication, every interaction. And for her, that's across the entire journey. From inspiration and discovery to browse and buy, fulfill, service, and advocacy. And when you're putting together, in this case, an entire furniture collection for your home, it's important to engage that consumer who likely won't purchase on day one, but wants to get inspired and learn and feel really confident with that very big purchase that they make every 5, 10, 15 years and engage the brand in that way. But what we found, it's easier said than done. And one of the biggest roadblocks to any of these shopper imperatives, these shopper mandates, is data. let's face it, data is a mess within our enterprise. We have it scattered across a lot of different systems. I'm the chair of our customer advisory board for retail, and we hear time and time again that it's just not actionable. We can't get at the data. We can't make sense of the data. We can't turn that data over to the merchants, to the marketers, to our consumers themselves. So we went out and did some other research to really uncover how data is being leveraged to take advantage of the customer experience. And what we found, actually, data is a big barrier to artificial intelligence. Again, we talk about artificial intelligence, but the reality, based on our research, is that only 1/3 of consumers, only 1/3 of brands have adopted artificial intelligence. It's because their data house is not in order. In order to fuel artificial intelligence, we need to aggregate, normalize, cleanse, and make that data actionable. And again, what does that mean? It's about driving personalization, driving automation, and driving convenience. Finding those use cases, those very specific use cases that make our lives easier for our merchants, for our marketers, for the consumers themselves. So what's the big barrier? I kind of alluded to it a minute or two ago, but our systems are candidly somewhat of a mess. And to be fair, it's nobody's fault in particular. We stood up specific systems to solve specific problems by specific channels. We had to respond to the consumer need and our business needs. And that's just left us with a lot of different best-of-breed systems across mobile, call center, e-commerce. And in fact, our research showed that brands, on average, have 39 different systems to manage the consumer engagement. By the way, this is just the front office. This doesn't account for merchandising, supply chain, PLM, sourcing, and everything in the back office. So we have an opportunity, and we're seeing a trend in this direction to really consolidate and simplify. If we don't have our house in order in the back end, we cannot provide a seamless and relevant experience on the front end with our consumers. And in fact, we're finding a move from merely unified commerce to unified engagement. And let's be realistic. We're not going to be able to wave a wand, although maybe you could, and make one unified system and consolidate all of these 39 different systems at once. But it's a journey to understand how we can consolidate our data, have a single view of the customer, and be able to think about the journeys and how we're going to support them from, again, inspiration to purchase, service, and then all the way around. According to our research, actually, two-thirds of brands have an active initiative to try to figure this out, to understand how we can really simplify our systems so therefore we can simplify and personalize the user engagement. So to really round this out here, we listened, as many of you do as well, to consumers. And what we heard, there are 3 mandates. Let's make it fresh. Let's have that steady drumbeat of product and services. Let's be where I am. And by the way, that's increasingly happening off the comfort of our own property through intermediaries that are increasing and trying to control that consumer experience. And let's give it meaning. Let's stand for something beyond the products that we provide and create beyond just transactions and drive relationships. So as I conclude here, I want to really finish where I started and just thank you. Thank you for stepping away from your office and your phones and your daily task and stepping back. Hopefully we provided a little inspiration, a little education, and most importantly, a little networking as well. Take advantage of your time here and talk about how we can all become shopper-first retailers. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Gracias.